Okay.
Today, we are on this call because of all the different things that are taking place in this country. And David is the one who had started to ask us questions and how to handle things from a different perspective. So
it was David's idea to have this call.
It was David's idea to have this call, and,
Right.
and he wanted to get his questions answered. He felt that it would be beneficial for everyone to hear the same answers.
Not only that, he wanted a bigger audience, but then we said, well, we're not comfortable with that yet.
Yes.
Besides, we don't have 1 million followers yet, so we didn't want to do the YouTube thing. So thanks, David, for this fantastic idea. And when we're done, hopefully a lot of people will get their questions and concerns answered as well.
As usual, you will only hear my husband, and he will be off to the side. So if you see me looking to the side, it's because I'm looking at him. Okay, go ahead. You two can begin with the questions.
All right, David. So tell us about why you wanted to have the call, please.
So really, it's I kind of feel like as a country and as a society that we've reached a boiling point, and you can't help but feel it in every aspect, whether it's through friends, with what you see on social media, what you see on the news, what you see literally everywhere. And so it was unavoidable. So I know for myself that I'm a bit skeptical of what is presented to me in the public arena, that it's not always as straightforward, that while folks may not be lying, I don't think I'm always being given the 100% truth. And so I have to decipher, I have to take time to decipher and try to figure things out for myself as well. And so kind of seeing what happened in the past, few weeks between the protesting, the rioting, the death of George Floyd, even the way people are reacting to COVID-19, that, it was almost a perfect storm of crazy that just happened to explode onto the scene for us. And so, I found myself not really knowing how to think, how to react, and how to do what I could to make this place better. And because it felt very much that I either have to be on one side or the other. And while I don't disagree completely with the narrative that's being shared, I don't 100% agree either. And that's where, to me, but at the same time, I felt very reserved in speaking out, because I didn't want to be vilified for not being a part of the quote unquote solution. So, and I don't think that I'm the only one who feels that way, because as I speak in private to some of my friends and colleagues, that, we all kind of have the same idea that, really through civilized discourse and being able to talk with one another and kind of come to an understanding, that I think regardless of race, regardless of creed, regardless of sexual orientation, regardless of anything that may or may not divide us, that, what is it that we're trying to accomplish? And, even Lauren and myself, when we were getting ready for this call, we were, she shared a really wonderful article with me. And, as we were talking, that's kind of where this really came from. And, having, known you guys for a long time, that, I had a great relationship with Laura's father, where he and I would share email battles over politics, which were very fun. But I felt it was great, because while he and I did not see eye to eye on most topics, we shared wonderful communication together, where I really felt like I understood him more. And, for his stances and for what he believed in was correct. And, he really challenged me to be able to speak and defend what I believed in, and to be able to, share with one another how each other feels, not just with facts and, you're wrong or I'm right, but it's more about, well, how can we come to the best decision together so that you and I can, live well together, right? And so that's really something that is very important to me. And I felt that, as a part of this community, that I wanted, if I know that if I'm feeling this way, that I'm probably not the only one. And but at the same time, like I do understand that folks may feel nervous about sharing, or scared about sharing, whatever it is, about being shy, or whatever it is. And so I teach a class at my local parish, and I always, so people are scared to ask questions, and I always joke, there's no such thing as stupid questions, only stupid people. But for me, it's because, and to me, the stupid person is somebody who doesn't ask a
Mhm.
question when they have it, and they're not taking the opportunity to to know, right? Especially if they have an opportunity to learn and to be able to talk with one another. So
Right.
yeah, so that being said, that's really why I wanted us to be able to you know so my initial thought was that given the people within the community, I thought that maybe it would be nice to share with one another, like how they're feeling, any questions they might have about who's doing this, who's doing what is happening exactly, because it doesn't feel uh, like the whole truth is being shared across everything. So yeah, so that's really why I wanted to, because I mean, if I'm going to be selfish, yeah, I wanted it for me, but I did feel like other people would have wanted it also. So that's kind of where all of this kind of came from.
Got it. Well, I know that you're well aware that pretty much everything we do, we look and approach it from the spiritual aspect, correct?
Right.
So this discussion then will be based on that. Um, Everything we do is based on the teachings itself. And for anyone that isn't familiar with what the teaching happens to be, I always describe it as the mother of all religions, right? The mother of spirituality. That's where every aspect of spirituality comes from. I say that to say this. You had mentioned while you were talking that you're not sure what the truth is, who's telling the truth.
Right.
Well, none of that really matters if you look at it from a spiritual standpoint. Because looking at it from a spiritual standpoint, it's not about who's wrong or who's right or what anybody's saying. It's more about what does God have to say about this? What does the spiritual world have to say about this? And that's what we go by. That's our core covenants. That's how we determine our core value. Does that make sense?
It does, and I'll admit that it's kind of hard to. I generally tend to compartmentalize my life, whether it's, like my physical health is always my physical, my mental health is my mental, and my spiritual is my spiritual. And only in the past few years really have I started to recognize that all of it really is one type of health. So,
Exactly.
right. So like I gotta admit, like I know I'm still learning that aspect of it because I'm so used to keeping things separated,
Right.
right? Kind of like a cafeteria lunch tray. So, that being said, it's that's why it's hard for me to understand that, or it's I can hear it and I do kind of understand from my brain, but to internalize and to make it fluid and make it more um, a natural response, I think, is where I'm still challenged also.
Hmm.
So
Okay. And you bring up a good point that people do separate these different aspects of themselves. And that's what the teaching does. It makes us understand that it's one. We're one, we're a spiritual being. Whether or not we want to accept that, that's a fact.
right.
And as long as we're a spiritual being, then that's the way we should look at things. And once we understand the teachings, that starts to become who we are, because that's how we live our lives. And everything we do is based on the teaching. Now, what does that mean with regards to what you're talking about? Well, okay, let's first establish that someone did get killed. And when my wife told me about this, well, that's really some ignorant actions that were taken there, because for a trained police officer, and this I'm just going by what I was told, to kneel on somebody's neck, I mean, you should know better than that. That just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So our hearts go out to the family, of course, and somebody goofed up and they killed somebody. That's not even a question. You know,
Yeah.
the question now becomes, okay, so how do we deal with that? Well, how are people dealing with it? Some people are saying it's racism. All right. Some people might be saying things from the Bible. They might be saying, okay, it's an eye for an eye. That's in the Bible, right? They might be saying, oh, vengeance is mine. God said that. So people can take that approach. On the other side, Jesus also said, I know that in the Bible, he said, I know that you've been taught this before in Moses' time, that you take an eye for an eye, you take a hand for a hand, So, but now you don't do that. Okay, you're supposed to care for each other. We're supposed to take care of each other. First of all, he says what? Love thy neighbor as you love thyself.
Right.
And that he replaced that eye for an eye mentality with love each other, take care of each other. So if you're living a spiritual life, or if you're a spiritual being, then why would you be looking for revenge? Why would you be looking for vengeance when Jesus made it very clear that that's not what we do anymore? Yes, that was during Moses' time. And even back then, they didn't mean it that way. They meant it to be that every society has a judge or a jury, right? That will decide punishment. And that was supposed to be a guideline for those individuals making those decisions to ensure that they gave fair punishment to whomever the person was that did something wrong. That's what that was meant for. It wasn't meant for us to go and take revenge on somebody.
Right.
So again, that's why we don't spend time on the stories. Because I'm looking at, okay, this individual got killed. What now? The Bible says this. If you check the Bible, it literally states this. That's, well, let me find out. I know I wrote it down. Let me see where, so people can look it up themselves. In Deuteronomy, okay, Deuteronomy, it states, trust in God and the legal system, so that the wrongdoing can be corrected. Bottom line, that's in Deuteronomy. He's saying, trust in God. Okay, so you might not trust the legal system, right? People say, well, why would we trust God? That's used up many times.
Right.
But that's where you trust in God. Now, if you don't believe in God, then trust in some higher being or some higher power. All right? But we know that the law of karma is there. And this will get corrected. But then, how can you explain that you are taking care of your neighbor and that you are showing love towards your neighbor when someone got killed in Minnesota, and during this tough time with COVID-19, we have these individuals that own a business. This is how to take care of their family. And they're trying to restart their business, and you go, or somebody goes and they loot this business. What does that business owner have to do, a business owner in Anaheim or a business owner in Pennsylvania or in New York? What does that business owner have to do with something that happened in Minneapolis? So if you look at it from that standpoint, who's really being mistreated here? And those are the laws of the universe. Okay? You receive what you put out. And for all these folks that have decided, well, let me take this opportunity to go and destroy somebody's hard work and destroy somebody's source of living, we don't hope this for them. But then the law of the universe states that you do that to somebody, it's going to come back at you. And when it comes back, it's going to be multiplied at least 1,000-fold. So look at it from that perspective. Then does it really matter who's lying and who's telling the truth?
It doesn't. But that being said, that even referring to that verse from Deuteronomy, that I don't think it's the faith in God that is shaken as much as it is that the faith in a legal system. That it's very evident that there is privilege, and outside of whatever, however we want to use, whatever category, whatever elitism, whatever we want to say about it, it's clear that it's a system of privilege, and that some people get away with more than others. And so I realize that there is no such thing as fair, right? Like in the sense of, well, except for, within, uh, like the spiritual realm, there is harmony, there is that, but in the sense of fairness in the way that I think most folks, like myself included, that like to think about it, um, I don't, I think that's what it is, that where the, I feel like it's two different things. Like there is the folks who are protesting the, because, there's evidence that we've seen that before, where with folks mistreating others when they're in a position that they're supposed to be helping one another, and seeing something so clearly wrong, where people who take on a job to be of service and abuse that power and authority to do whatever it is, whether it's with George Floyd, with whatever happened in Ferguson, with whatever happened in Baltimore, even to an extent what happened in Los Angeles with Rodney King back in '92. So like there's so much that, to me, that when I see it, it's there's people who are thriving off of the chaos. I do believe that they're not the same people. I don't believe that the motivation is in the same place. That I think the majority of the folks who are protesting the fact that that folks are being mistreated in a way that um, it's not the way God had intended it to be. That that all men are created equal. That we all are supposed to be treated with equal dignity, regardless of who you are, what you believe in, what you look like. That um, there's clear evidence of that, and I think that to protest that system of inequality or inequity, rather, that that I can support, but at the same time I agree that this is no place to destroy businesses where folks who probably are supportive of the cause to begin with are in fact now victimized as a result of whether it's anarchists, people who are looking to benefit from the chaos, whatever it may be. That I think that there are two separate things that are going on, which is why that um, from a presentation standpoint, at least from what I've seen, it seems that initially the narrative was that the looters and the protesters were in fact the same group, and it's from what I'm seeing, it's really not. Are there some who are just partaking in the chaos as a part of the way mob mentality works? I do think that that's true, but I think most folks who are trying to get out there are trying to make things better and try to want to be a part of a solution. But I do feel that there's a level of manipulation. I do feel that there is a level of, I guess I would call it lying, because if you're not telling the truth, what else would you call that? So, um, and I think that's where I still feel foggy, because it's not that I disagree with the statement that, yeah, that you take someone's life, and from a karmic balance standpoint, that's between you and God, and I guess I'll pray for you. But at the same time, um, I think that because this is not the first time as a culture or as a country we've seen this, that I think that's a part of that momentum of that outrage of like like, why is this okay? Why does this continue to happen? And so to me, those are two different narratives that I think are going on out there. Like one of the of the inequalities and the inequities, but also that there's clearly agents of chaos at work that are trying to make things worse than they actually are. Especially now that there was conversation about opening up businesses, and let's try to get back to normal, and let's try to do things together. So I do feel that as it was kind of rising, that for some reason there seemed to be interests that, and I guess groups that did not want things to get better. They wanted things to remain or get worse even. So, and like as to why, I don't know. I mean, sure, I've got theories, but there's no evidence. It's just cooked up in my head. And but what I know to be true is that's from what I can see and from what I've seen from both sides, really.
Right, and you're absolutely right. The protesting is a wonderful thing. You should be able to express yourself.
Right.
Of course, we should do it peacefully, right?
Of course.
Going back to what you're saying, the question is, why are these things happening? Again, this is where you take the spiritual standpoint or the spiritual perspective, where it really doesn't matter why it's happening. What we do is when we see something that we dislike, when we see something that we're unhappy with, we take control and then we fix it. Now that sounds easier than it really is, right? But we have the power to engage and to make sure that things happen the way they should, as in it benefits everybody. So instead of us sitting back and looking at what's happening, we engage. For example, 2 days ago, starting Monday, we started to neutralize things from here. And I know we have some contacts that they've been updating us to let them know when we do the treatments. And I told them that by the end of today, because it will be the 3rd day, that all the gatherings, and I call them gatherings because we're putting positive energy on them, that by the end of today, the gatherings will be even more peaceful. And from here, from Monday, they got even more peaceful because our contact in Chicago, she was sending us information. She told us how everything was going well. Probably had two shootings, and that was it. 2 people died, and that was it the whole time. And that's what we do, So we don't need to go and march. We don't need to go and protest. We protest at our altar because the angels do the work for us. And you can do the same thing. When you get concerned, talk to Archangel Michael. Just say, Archangel Michael, make sure that, or thank you for ensuring that all gatherings with regards to the death of George Floyd, right?
Yes, that's his name.
George Floyd, that they're peaceful. And that's all you have to do. And Archangel Michael and his angels will go and do their thing. And so we don't spend time on the narrative. We don't listen to the media because, like there's a lot of manipulation going on. It's mass consciousness, right? They make money by getting you involved. We know that they have people out there that pay people to protest. They've said it publicly. People like George Soros and Bill Gates, Warren Buffett. They have money and they pay people for every day they're out there protesting. But we don't have to spend time on that because we're involved in politics. Now we don't want to be involved in politics that way. We want to help our brothers and sisters, and we help them by protecting them and making sure the gatherings are peaceful. And we have the tool. We have the connection. I always tell my wife, I told her, and I told our kids, because I started laughing. I said, they'll be really surprised when they get out there and they want to go loot. And at the end of the day, they go back home and they're saying, what happened? Everything was so peaceful. What took place? Something went wrong. Because they just got whacked by the angels. And when you take it from that approach, then see there's nothing to worry about. Because we are taking control of this. And you'll notice, unless I haven't got, I got updates for today and they're getting even more peaceful. The gatherings are getting more peaceful. Now, I even sent your mom a message letting her know that we had done some work out where you guys were. But then she didn't want to go for an appointment anyway. So you bring us some excellent points, but just remember that you have the tool. You have the cosmic connection. You have the higher connection. Use it. That's what we call implementation. Just talk to Archangel Michael. You don't have to figure out who's telling the truth. You don't have to figure out who's lying. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. We take control. We let them know. Archangel Michael, go take care of my brothers and sisters out there. And we don't look at the color of somebody's skin or whether or not they're male or female or whatever they are. None of that matters to us because we're all spirits. See, we're all brothers and sisters of God. That's it. So we don't look at it as we're different.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that helps you a little bit, but that's how we're looking at it from here. That's how we approach it from here. And I'm telling you, you'll notice that tonight is going to be even more peaceful than yesterday and the day before, because the treatment we did on Monday, we did treatment yesterday, and we did treatment again today. And it's not for us to brag, but we want our followers to know that we take action. We don't just sit back or go and get on TV and have people see our face because we're out there making noise. We don't have to make noise. We do it quietly. We're like those secret agents, like the CIA and FBI. We just do it behind the scenes.
Silent warriors.
Ken.
And the whole thing, again, going back to what you're saying as well, what you said about karma, we all have karma, right? Think
Mhm.
about it this way. Whether you believe in past lives, you've been black before, you've been white before, you've been Hispanic before. So when people talk about discrimination, they really don't understand who they are, because we've all been a member of any race that we can think about. So while we dislike another race, it's only because we're ignorant to the fact that we have been there, and that's why we have the color of the skin that we do now, because we're balancing karma with this body that we have. Next time we come back, we could be someone that hates white people right now comes back as a white person, because they have things to learn from that. See, people are not thinking that way. And as I said again, if you look at it from a spiritual standpoint, your sentiment will be different. Your perspective will be different. You'll be looking at this thing completely different. The anger won't be there. You know, there'll be disappointment for the behavior of someone taking the life of his own brother, right? Very disappointing.
Yeah.
And there are things that have to get done about that, for sure. But there shouldn't be this hatred for somebody because of the way they look, or because of the way they talk, or the way they sound. If you understand the concept of previous embodiment or just re-embodiment, you won't do that. With karma, people are protesting supposedly the death of this gentleman, and because of the color of his skin and the color of the guy that killed him. Well, as you said, there's karma there. Maybe the people that are doing it peacefully, that's what they're supposed to do. They're balancing karma with both individuals this way. Now you have individuals joining the gathering with ulterior motive. Well, they're creating more karma. They have to deal with that on their own. That's their issue. We have nothing to do with that. But again, what we do is we treat the situation, and then we command the angels to go and take care of these individuals and make sure the gatherings are peaceful. And that's what we work on, you know? And if you're busy doing that, you have nothing else to think about. Every time we think about a gathering, go talk to Archangel Michael and tell him to go and make sure that these gatherings are peaceful. And by the time you're done, believe me, you'll be at peace, because you know that the angels are out there doing the work for everybody. Does that make sense?
It does. And, I'll be honest that, when folks tell me like, oh, I'll pray for you, and it always kind of feels very empty, because it doesn't feel like, like it's anything. And I think becoming, being a student of the teachings and understanding and coming to understand how it is that I am a spiritual being, and understanding how the spiritual world works.
Right.
It takes some adjusting, and it takes some getting used to, because um, I'm very much, I know still am actually, very much, what's that bottom line? What can you show me? And um, it is things that, like, I have to be able to see things without being able to see things, and I do know that that's an aspect of my own personal growth that I know I'm working on and I'd like to improve on. But um, and I think that's where the challenge is, and to me that's where a lot of this came from, right? That because of that sentiment of almost feeling helpless, of like, what can I do? Like, I want to help, but at the same time, I don't want to get caught up in mob mentality. I don't want to, like, that's not what I'm interested in. At the same time, I want to protect businesses. I want to help people, that spend, their lives trying to build this business up so they can feed their families. And, seeing them, taken, so callously, that it just, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't angry at that. And to temper that feeling of anger to and transmute into something more like compassion, right? And how can we improve? And I think that's where, to me, that's what I'm trying to, amidst all this negativity, amidst all this chaos, that's why, trying to center myself and calm myself so that I can be the best agent for a good change that I can, right? So, thank you, Ken. That, everything you've shared, really has helped.
Excellent. And thank you for arranging this call I hope that the content will help a lot of individuals. But we were so, you know how I go. Even though I've been doing this for a long time, I was still surprised when I got the updates. We got an email today from one of the individuals in Illinois, and she sent this email that she got from somebody where they wrote about peaceful protesting in California or New York. Was it? It was New York.
I didn't see the email.
But she ended by saying something about how she can see that the work we're doing is working. And so we could give you a trail of the communication as of Monday nights, where they were just updating us what's taking place. We said, okay, we did a treatment. Let us know how it's going, and they would just send us updates. So you can do the same thing, like I said. Now you can do the same thing. And like I said, if you check with your mom, we sent her a message on Monday to let her know that I'd done a treatment there, and I didn't even bother checking. She had sent a message to us if she should keep her appointment, and instead I responded by saying I didn't check on that. Instead, I did a treatment. And then it was up to her whether or not she felt comfortable with it. But how was it there? How did that turn out?
Well, where I am in particular, it was not that bad. So I live in Southern California, and over in Orange County. And Orange County wasn't as bad. There was some level of protesting. It was very mild. It was relatively peaceful. I do have a good friend of mine who is on the police force, and even on Sunday night, he sent me a text and said, "Hey, listen, it could get bad. Be careful out there." And and he knows my mom is out here too, so he said, make sure your mom is okay. So
Right.
I was very grateful for that. And in LA on Saturday night, looking in the Fairfax West, the Hollywood area, where it looked bad, and it just looked worse. And there was looting and there was rioting, and also in downtown LA as well. So granted, it's gotten better in the past few days, and I do think that the sentiment has gotten more peaceful. And I do feel great. I can sense it. I can feel it in the air. I can see it by the lack of news,
Right.
Because they're kind of recycling old stuff. So it kind of tells me there's nothing new to talk about, which makes me feel better. I am a little bit nervous about this coming Monday though, with the trial of the officer who is accused of murdering George Floyd, and he goes to court on Monday. And I think that's something that kind of makes me nervous a little bit as well.
So what do you do?
Well, now I know to ask Archangel Michael. Okay,
Yeah.
now I know. Okay, right? I didn't know an hour ago, but now I know. Okay, so
Just keep in mind now that if you start to feel nervous, you're creating energy around that, which is not good. And that's why you want to change that right away. Well, you are a great creator. We're all great creators, right? So you want to make sure that what you're creating is what you want. And that's why the moment you start to think about, oh, okay, I'm feeling uneasy about this whole thing, that's when you go and just start to hit the mic. Just say, well, listen, Monday they have this hearing. Thank you for making sure that everything stays peaceful, and that everyone, they can go and gather, but you will all be peaceful. So that's what you do. I laughed. I told my wife, I laughed because when I was sending out the request to the angels, I put there, and it just came out of my mouth. Sometimes this happens. I said, optimal teamwork, and I'm thinking, teamwork? What does teamwork apply? Well, all of a sudden, later that night or the following morning, I got a report from our contact in Chicago. She said that in Cicero, the gang members were the ones policing the place. So the gang members are actually working with the police officers. Well, that's where the teamwork comes in. So I didn't see how that could fit anywhere, right? But this is how wonderful this is. You just put it out there and the angels go and do their work. So I was just blown away by that. And you'll see, and thanks to you, by the way, you're the one that brought this to attention, because we don't listen to the media. And when you send a message about your concern, that's when we started doing work on it. That's why we only started on Monday. Now, we knew nothing about what was happening at all until you brought it to our attention. So thanks for doing that.
Well, yeah, it feels weird, but okay, you're welcome.
So we'll keep doing this. You know, when you get these ideas, please let us know because we this is wonderful. This will definitely help everybody. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I didn't want us to feel, as much as, we're a part of the world and, as much as we can control and create, I do think that at times that some things feel overwhelming and some things feel bigger than they actually are. And so, how do we combat that, or how do we deal with it, or how do we react to it?
Right.
And I know for myself that it hasn't always been positive, and I've made my mistakes. I've reacted negatively. I've lashed out in anger, and I've done, I know I've done the wrong thing as well. And so I'd like to stop doing that and try to do the right thing moving
Right.
forward. And so, and it's funny because it kind of goes against what I think is my natural instinct, because I had grown so accustomed to reacting in a specific way that it became natural.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of breaking bad habits and trying to form good ones is something that is very important to me now. So, so that's why I want to keep my finger on the pulse without becoming inundated with the negative news. I completely understand why you guys wouldn't watch the news, because yeah, it makes me go crazy after about 15 minutes, and then I just switch off and try to read comic books or watch stand-up comedy, just to kind of bring levity to the situation. And I gotta laugh because I need to laugh about it a little bit. So,
Right.
so yeah, so I mean, just the sense of I guess that's the other thing is that within a lot of it, I didn't know where everyone sat, and kind of wanting to be, because again, I think it's one of those things, right? Like what you saw with the gang members and the police. Everybody wants to work together. I really believe that in my heart. That I think the way that we're created, the way we're designed, is that we're meant to be together. We're supposed to be a family, and that we're supposed to work together. And that's where that is the natural way of doing things. That we're supposed to be compassionate. That we're supposed to be caring. We're supposed to be generous. So, I guess I'm just trying to remember who it is that I was supposed to be initially. And sometimes, it does take others to help remind me of that. So, in that, I thank you guys.
Oh, well, thank God for that.
Indeed.
All right.
It was great talking with you, David. We will talk to you again soon.
Sounds good. Great talking to you guys.
And keep us updated about California, okay? Let's go. We'll keep
We'll do.
from here. And you can
Sounds good.
do your part from over there too.
We will.
Okay.